Hello again, and good to have you back with us on the UK edition. Now, let's get head to head straight away with a matter that often comes to mind and a matter that we often do not talk about, a matter arising within Muslim society, particularly in India, the issue of the triple talaq, where a man can say talaq, talaq, talaq to his wife and he has a divorce, a practice that is accepted in law in India but not in Pakistan and in many other Islamic countries. How is that? Let's have a word with Shamsuddin Agha Sahab, who heads the Indian Muslim Federation in the UK. Agha Sahab, at least some Muslim women in India are beginning to protest against this practice of the triple talaq. That is valid under Indian law. Do you support that law or do you support that protest?
देखिए जैसा आपने फरमाया हिंदुस्तान एक डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री है लार्जेस्ट डेमोक्रेसी इन द वर्ल्ड जहाँ पर हर एक को अपने ख्यालात का इजहार करना और बताना मोस्ट वेलकम तो एक टाइनी सेक्शन ऑफ हमारी औरतें प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं नथिंग रॉन्ग विथ इट
लेकिन आप सहमत हैं कि नहीं?
जब प्रोटेस्ट से सहमत हूँ उनके कंटेंट से सहमत नहीं हूँ.
What does that mean?
इसका मतलब यह हुआ कि एक जो शरिया लॉ है according to Muslim belief that's a divine law. We can't change it.
Yes.
We mustn't change it. Probably we are interpreting it in the wrong way or the interpretation needs further clarification.
We're talking about the triple talaq.
Yes, of course. ट्रिपल तलाक जो है अब तलाक का रेशियो अगर देखा जाए तो हिंदुस्तान में सबसे कम तलाक का रेशियो मुस्लिम्स में अभी ये लास्ट ईयर के
Yeah, but that's another question. Yes, most marriages remain marriages and so they should and wonderful. But when it comes to divorce, the fact that a man can say talaq, talaq, talaq and get a divorce, surely we all respect divine law and so we must. But you're right, it's being interpreted differently. In India, it is valid. In Pakistan, a triple talaq is not valid. So what is this interpretation in India? Should it be challenged?
There is no harm in challenging. You should challenge it. The truth will come out by itself, right? और जैसा कि मैंने पहले अर्ज किया कि कोई भी कानून हो, it can be misused. मसलन इंटरनेशनल लॉ है कि thou shall not kill. क्या लोग मारते नहीं हैं, कत्ल नहीं करते, गारतगरी नहीं करते, सब करते हैं. तो it's a misuse of triple talaq philosophy. It should be, it's not that easy. I'm not an expert on religious dogmas, but there is a hadith that's the most shameful act when you divorce, let alone triple talaq. लेकिन कुछ लोग उसको misuse करते हैं and in fact, if you ask me, that's not on.
Would members of the Indian Muslim Federation here in the UK accept the idea of the triple talaq?
Nobody accept that in the sense that this is most easily misused. But again, in this country, I can say the triple talaq I have never heard here. I know the community, Muslim community, Indian Muslim community. I can't see anyone who has been using this triple talaq.
Yeah, but at the heart of this question lies Sharia versus common law when they are in conflict and when it comes to Muslims who are resident in a country that is not Islamic in its fundamental laws. So when it comes to this question of Sharia versus common law, what is the position of Indian Muslims?
Well, before that answer, there is a very reputable women organization in this country, and they maintain that Sharia law should be, इस्तेमाल होना चाहिए उसका. And it's a very reputable, hundreds of ladies, Muslims, all over the world are the part of it. And I think it has been, I think they are based in somewhere in the Birmingham or somewhere.
Yes, I mean, quite legitimately, many people might believe in it and want it, but what is the actual legal position?
I think if you are, see, here you have to do your marriage according to your religious ceremonies, right? That's one, nikah. But you have to register it. And if you register, that means that triple talaq law goes out of window. Automatically, you have to follow the laws of this country. I know there are clever dicks around who will bring a woman, especially from India or Pakistan, from Bangladesh. They will marry them according to Islamic law.
Where? Here?
Here. And our ladies are not aware that he should be registered here according to British law. Now, British law gives them an extra protection, i.e., should, for example, triple talaq or whatever talaq, or proper talaq, it's not a talaq unless it's a divorce by British law.
How are these people covered by law? If there are people coming and marrying but not registering the marriage, what is their legal position? Does the Sharia law apply more to them? Can they invoke the Sharia law only?
As I said, as far as I know, my Indian Muslim community, I haven't heard, as I said earlier, triple talaq. I haven't heard even talaq, right? And so it's a rare, it's not appreciated by God, Prophet didn't like it, right? But there is, instead of, like say the other community, if you can't divorce, that's what happens when you can't get on with it, right? Are you going to have another woman? What happens to the children? There is inheritance problem, but Islam covers all that. Even if you are not married, according to this country's law, Islam covers that one.
And in practice, there is a traditional institution in place that will implement the Sharia law?
Yes, I've seen that.
Is it through the mosques?
There are, it could be through the mosque, but there are Sharia law offices around. There is one in my Leighton, and I remember one of my...
What do they do, for example?
I mean, when there is a dispute, husband and wife, they go to them. And their strategy is to resolve the dispute.
So these are like well-meaning people who are respected in the community.
Yes, of course they are.
But that is the validity. They have social and personal validity. They are not institutional within the country's law.
They are not, but they can be taken into account. For example, instead of going to court, waiting for hundreds of months, they are the people help the courts in this country to resolve before it goes. You know, they are help.
So the courts do take cognizance of
course
what they say?
They do.
I see. So
they may not agree. They may not agree.
Sure.
But they do.
They're not legally bound to accept it, but they do consider it.
Of course they do.
You know, but this kind of institution is set up by consensus. The community wants it. But are all people in the community respectful of such an institution? Are the young particularly accepting them?
Yes. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. There might be some dissent. There might be some dissent. Probably, maybe because they are not aware of the role, they are not aware of their system. There may be. But I think can say, because I live with the community, 99% they respect this.
You know, speaking of the community, we saw very difficult days after 7/7. And there was really Islamophobia was peaking in the months and even years following that. Things seem to have gotten a little better, but how do you see it?
Still there. Still there. Look, Sanjay Sahab, I've been in this country for 50 years. I've given the best part of my ability to this country. No doubt this country has given me a good life too. And I've been through the thick and thins. When you say Islamic phobia, it's some kind of discrimination. Now, discrimination has been in this country, discrimination is everywhere. It's a human disease. Discrimination was here in form of race, in form of color, in form of, you name it. So now because that happened, Islamic phobia, but our young girls with hijab, now this country allows you to wear whatever you like.
Sure.
Instead of going clothless, it's better to cover yourself.
Sure, it's their choice anyway.
Yes, it's their choice.
Yes.
But there are people, I think a few weeks ago, somebody snatched somebody's girl's hijab. What is this? But
How frequent are these incidents? And I do understand that even if they're not very frequent in number, they spread fear and uncertainty.
especially girls, young girls, they are all educated girls. I've seen doctors, professionals in hijab. Right? And I think if somebody attacks you, I'm sure, even as a man, we are not the same second day. So what about the girls? They're scared. They're looking for protection. And I know there are people who are for them, that protect them.
There is an impression around that Muslims tend to be a little closed. Their world is Muslims only and not very open to people outside. Is there any basis for that impression?
I think if you slightly look in a different perspective, when you go out, you feel vulnerable. Where the solace comes in from your own culture. Even when the Britishers came to India, I can use the word now, they lived in ghettos. Why? Because they felt comfortable within their environment. To create that environment, Muslims feel the Islamic environment. Now again, it is disputable, which is Islamic and which is un-Islamic. But as a whole, when two Muslims or anybody with a similar faith meet, it's less confusion, more protection there. And this is why but now if you look at this young generation, they've come out of it. As I said earlier, because I live with the community, I do the grassroots level work, I see the youth which are much, much more educated than we were. They're much more integrated than we were. But still they go to mosque. The similar things applies to the girls.
Yes. Talking of living within the community and within the world in which people are comfortable, we've been talking about marriages, and finally, eventually it comes down to this question of marrying within the community, because that's what keeps a community going, whether it is Indian Muslims or anybody else. What is your report on this? What's your report card, if you like? Are most marriages among the young taking place among Indian Muslims?
You see, this is again, if you come out of Muslim community, take other communities. The royalties don't go out of the royalty arena. They marry within that. It's all arranged marriages, right?
No, that is true. No, this is not an attack on this. I mean,
No.
In Hindus, there will be a certain kind of Sikh will marry a certain kind of Sikh, and a Patel will marry a Patel. Yes, of course, this happens. But are Indian Muslims marrying mostly within Indian Muslims finally?
Yes, they do. But now,
overwhelmingly so?
not overwhelmingly, because you see, when you marry, you have to take into consideration the wealth, the culture, the traditions, everything. So you go to the nearest point when it is much more, appreciated, you marry. But now, like, apart from Muslims, like even Muslim community, a guy coming from Bharuch will marry only Bharuchis. If they don't, there will be outcasts. But it's not now anymore. The Patels are marrying outside. I'm talking a Muslim Patel outside, and vice versa. Similarly, people from Maharashtra, my region, they are marrying outside, and people are. It's opening up. It's a question of getting much more integrated.
Agha Sahab, there's a lot more we would like to hear from you, but we are running out of time. But thank you very much for talking to us, and we'll knock on your doors again soon.
Anytime. You're most welcome. Thank you.
Always something to think about after a chat with Agha Sahab. But a quick break now, and then let's see what else has been going on around us. Welcome back. Now, to think just a little bit more about some things we could perhaps think a little more about. When we think Kashmir, we think terrorism, we think human rights, we think of politics of one kind or another, we think of issues between India and Pakistan. We often do not think enough about the cultural realities of Kashmir, of Jammu and Kashmir. These came to the fore in the UK the last couple of weeks.
The first ever Jammu and Kashmir festival was celebrated in the UK last week as a reminder that there is more to Kashmir than terrorism. The festival showcased many faces of Kashmir.
The festival actually saw a whole range of activities. There were 15 member troupe artists led by Balwant Thakur, who is a Padma Shri recipient, and he's devoted his life to the performing arts and theatre. They performed, they were from 10 different districts of Jammu and Kashmir, including a girl from Kargil. There was representation from Kashmir, Jammu, Ladakh, all three regions. And they showcased 7 different dances to the world, which were from 7 different, so Gojri, Pahari, Dogri, Kashmiri, which people did not know, and they really, really enjoyed it.
To India.
But while many danced and celebrated, the political face of the Kashmir situation was not far behind.
But that Jammu and Kashmir, the whole of the state, is an integral part of India. We've got to say that the unity of the state, bringing back that illegally occupied part of Kashmir by Pakistan into proper Indian control, has to be the ultimate.
The organisers hope to have corrected impressions about Jammu and Kashmir to some extent.
When you hear people saying all kinds of random things about the place that you belong to, you want to, at least correct them and say that, well, this is not true entirely. There's more to it than what you know. So that's what led to building this whole festival concept.
With Sanjay Suri in London, Shayani Iyer for News 18.
And dipping back into India a little longer, India, of course, is so closely associated with vegetarianism, and we have a very active Indian vegetarian society in the UK. Nitin Mehta, who heads the society, now has a take on the land where he believes the best of vegetarianism and the best of so much else comes from. Karma Wangde has a chat with him.
Is the cradle of human race.
Nitin Mehta, who founded the Young Indian Vegetarian Society in the UK to promote a healthy and humane lifestyle, has now come up with a book looking at what the world today can learn from India.
This book is, that, as you know, the title is India, a civilization the world fails to recognize. So in this book, I'm attempting to put together some of the very basic positives of India, which, never get told of. India, for its size and population, always seems to be getting very negative publicity all over the world, and I think it's a great injustice being done, especially because with the heritage that India has. So I'm trying to put that right in this book, and I hope that it will interest the younger Indian diaspora and also people from in India itself to be proud of the heritage.
He hopes that this book can provide some answers to the misconceptions and prejudices that people have of India.
India is actually a role model to the world. People, fail to understand and fail to acknowledge that. All they are doing is begrudgingly accepting that, yes, India has reached a state somewhere. But you'll see there's always but there are so many poor people, but this is happening, but that is happening. So I think we need to put across a more positive picture. So what I've done is I started from the beginning, and India is the cradle of human civilization. I'm not saying it. Some of the greatest minds of the world have said it. Friedrich Hegel was a German scholar, T.S. Eliot, Mark Twain. They all said India is the mother of civilizations.
The author also hopes that this book can be a ready reference for the Indians born and raised in the West. With Karma Wangdi in London, this is Arunoday Mukherjee for News 18.
Land of religions.
A new series on the life and times of Her Majesty the Queen coming up very soon, and how could it not have the Indian touch somewhere? Karma Wangdi was at the red carpet.
Made with a whopping budget of over £100 million, the new series on the life of reigning monarch Queen Elizabeth II had its London premiere at Leicester Square. The cast, which comprises of some of the big names of British film and television, were present at the premiere. We also spotted our very own import from India, Radhika Apte, who believes that the series has a lot of significance for Indians living abroad and in India.
47, 53, and the influence of Britain that at that time that it had in India. So it is definitely of great relevance. And even the first 2 episodes, there is a lot of reference of India. And you know, today we went to some a jewelry place where they used to design the crowns. It still do. And a lot of things had to do with India and how they couldn't take the crowns to India. So they were telling us a lot of stories about that. So it's definitely of great relevance. And I think we aren't yet over the colonial times, are we?
Claire Foy plays the role of the young monarch and is supported by Doctor Who fame Matt Smith, who plays the role of Prince Philip.
I think everyone has a preconception about them. I did myself. I felt I grew to understand them much more emotionally. I grew to understand the sort of context of where they come from historically and culturally and politically in much greater detail, and therefore I think my compassion for them grew because I sort of saw what they endured. Claire?
I completely agree. I think you can't help but know a little bit about their story and feel a lot for them. And also that then it affects the person that you see now today who's still here and still like ruling the country. I think it's extraordinary.
We have a new sovereign.
The series is based on the award-winning play The Audience and is directed by Stephen Daldry and Benjamin Caron. Crown is already available on Netflix for viewing. With Karma Wangdi in London, this is Vaibhav Verma for News 18.
They could do the job better. Strong people with powerful characters. But for better or worse, the crown has landed on my head.
Thanks for joining us. Stay warm and see you very soon.